Free Walk TLV.
Free Walk TLV.
Discover Tel Aviv
like a local.
Okay, think about Tel Aviv for just a second. You know, when you look past the headlines, beyond the usual news stories, there's this city that's literally been built by waves of people coming and going.
That's exactly right. It's a city shaped by migration, by arrival.
We often picture cities as kind of static, don't we? But Tel Aviv seems completely different.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what we want to get into today in this deep dive. We're looking at its demographic history, how it actually became the city it is now.
Using some really interesting texts that map out its evolution, right?
Precisely. The idea is to understand the forces, the people that molded this, well, incredibly dynamic place and maybe figure out why it's such a city of contrasts today.
Sounds good. Yeah, we've got material that walks us through the different phases, almost like looking at the growth rings of a tree.
That's a great analogy.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Where do we start? The very beginning, 1909.
1909, yeah. Just 66 Jewish families. Seem tiny now.
And who were they, these initial families? What were their backgrounds?
Well, the text we looked at emphasized they were mostly Ashkenazi Jews, European origin, who actually moved out from Jaffa.
Right, from nearby Jaffa.
Yeah, and they were, largely Zionist pioneers, professionals, tradespeople. They had a specific goal, a modern life, a modern city.
So that desire for something new, something modern, was baked in from the start.
Absolutely. It's sort of in the city's DNA, you could say.
Then comes the second Aliyah, early 1900s. People arriving from Russia, Poland, Romania. That wasn't just more people, was it?
No, not at all. They brought different ideas. The texts point to the socialist ideals, for instance, and a big push for Hebrew culture.
So shaping the identity early on?
Definitely. Laying down some cultural and, ideological foundations. And Aliyah, just to clarify for listeners, means Jewish immigration to the land of Israel. These happen in waves.
Got it. Okay, moving forward a bit, 1921, the Jaffa riots are mentioned in our sources. That sounds like a major event.
It really was a critical moment. It basically pushed many Jewish residents to leave Jaffa and move into Tel Aviv proper.
Which had grown a bit by then.
Yes, to about 2,000 people. And crucially, 1921 is also when Tel Aviv officially became independent from Jaffa. It got its own administration.
Ah, okay, so it starts to become its own distinct entity.
Exactly. Driven by aspiration, but also, sadly, by conflict.
So a relatively small, maybe somewhat similar community starts to grow, but then the 1930s hit. The German wave, as it's called. This seems like where the growth really explodes.
Oh, massively. The context, of course, is the rise of Nazism in Germany and across Europe.
A terrible time.
Terrible. And it led to this huge wave of Jewish refugees, the Fifth Aliyah. Tens of thousands came, and Tel Aviv was a major destination.
And these immigrants, the text called them yeks, they brought more than just numbers, right?
Very much so. The yeks, the German Jews, brought significant capital, yes, but also immense intellectual and cultural contributions. Think academics, scientists, business people.
Right. They founded things, built things.
Absolutely. Institutions, industries, and architecturally, they brought Bauhaus, that clean, functional style.
Which led to the White City.
Exactly. The White City, now a UNESCO World Heritage Site, it physically transformed the city's landscape. It's a direct result of that wave.
The scale is just, wow. By 1939, the population was over 150,000.
Correct. Making it the largest Jewish city in Mandatory Palestine at the time. A huge leap from those 66 families.
It really shows its growing importance as a center, a refuge during such a dark time.
It became a beacon, absolutely. A hub for Jewish life and development.
Okay, then we get to 1948, another massive historical moment. The texts talk about more waves of immigrants and refugees after the war, but from different places this time.
Yes, a much wider range. The sources list people coming from North Africa, Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, also from Iraq, Iran, Yemen, and Eastern Europe too, including Holocaust survivors.
So this is when Tel Aviv really becomes what the texts call a true melting pot.
That's the period, yes. Imagine the mix of languages, cultures, food, experiences suddenly all converging in this still relatively young city.
A melting pot, yes. But the texts also hint it wasn't always smooth. They mentioned sharp contrasts.
And that's a really important point. This rapid influx brought challenges. You had, say, established, perhaps wealthier German professionals, and then newer arrivals, like Mizrahi families from Middle Eastern countries, often with fewer resources, living in, well, sometimes quite cramped conditions.
So socioeconomic divisions started appearing early on.
They did. And these divisions, these contrasts, definitely shaped the city's social geography over time.
Which seems to connect to the 1960s shifts mentioned, where lower-income groups often moved south and east.
Exactly. Places like Florentin, Shapira. While the city center became, more middle class, more cosmopolitan, it's an ongoing process of the city reconfiguring itself.
Okay, so that brings us closer to today, 2024. The city itself, Tel Aviv, Jaffa, has around 460,000 people, but it's the heart of the much bigger Gush Dan metro area, right?
Right. Over 4.2 million in the wider metropolitan area. Tel Aviv is the pulsing center.
So let's break down who lives there now, according to our sources. First up, professionals and high-tech workers.
Yeah, this is huge for modern Tel Aviv. The whole Silicon Wadi startup scene, it pulls in young, educated people, Israeli, but also many expats, Americans, French, British.
Fueling the economy, giving it that global feel.
Definitely. Then you have the Arab population, mostly in Jaffa.
About 20,000. Muslims and Christians with deep roots there.
Yes, descendants of the pre-1948 population and Jaffa itself. The texts describe it as, complex. It's seen as a symbol of possible coexistence, but also a place where tensions exist.
That reflects the longer history, the unified municipality, but distinct identities.
Precisely. It's a microcosm of those dynamics.
And Tel Aviv's reputation globally as very LGBTQ plus friendly.
Oh, absolutely. The Middle East's most friendly, many say. The Pride Parade is enormous, over 200,000 people some years. That shows a strong local community and a certain level of public acceptance.
Contributing to that liberal image.
For sure. Then you've got the students and the creative types.
Drawn by Tel Aviv University, Bezalel Art School campuses.
Right, and just the general cultural buzz.
Yeah.
They bring a lot of energy to neighborhoods like Florentin again or Karim Hitamen.
And finally, there's this group the texts call a sort of parallel Tel Aviv, migrant workers and asylum seekers?
Yes, tens of thousands, often less visible, living in areas like Neve Sha'anan near the central bus station. Mostly from places like the Philippines, India, Thailand, Eritrea, Sudan.
And they play a vital role in the economy, even if less seen.
Absolutely essential in certain sectors. But the term parallel Tel Aviv does suggest, potential issues around integration, access, visibility.
The sources also threw out some stats. 42% single population, Israel's most unmarried city.
Yeah, that's quite high.
Mostly secular, Hiloni, but with religious pockets, especially in the south, and those economic divides persist.
They do. From, the luxury apartments on Rothschild Boulevard to communities struggling in the south. It's a city of layers and sometimes starkly different realities side by side.
So putting it all together, it's so clear. Tel Aviv's story is fundamentally about its people, these waves, these shifts.
It really is. Each group, the pioneers, the refugees, the tech workers, the migrants, they've all reshaped the city. Its streets, its culture, its soul, if you like.
You can almost see it walking around, can't you? That image from the texts sticks with me. A Yemeni family's hummus place, a French bakery, an American-Israeli tech startup, all close by.
It's the physical result of that layered history. A constant reminder that cities aren't static. They're made and remade by the people who live there.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, the big takeaway seems to be just how deeply Tel Aviv's identity is tied to this constantly changing demographic picture.
Absolutely. Which leaves us, and you the listener, with something to think about, perhaps. How does this constant layering of different communities with all their histories and tensions actually create the unique energy and the complexities of Tel Aviv today?
And maybe, what can Tel Aviv's story, its specific evolution, tell us about how other cities are changing so rapidly all over the world?
Free Walk TLV.
Free Walk TLV.
Discover
Discover Tel Aviv like a local.